Give it just a second, see if we get a few folks. Well, anyways, last night I kind of started the stream with, and probably shouldn't do it. And there was some truth to that. Rewatching it, I realized that I didn't finish a lot of the ideas, and I noticed I was like tying things together in my head, but then not saying it out loud, but then going into the next thing without the context and stuff. So, like, if you're going to be talking about unhinged stuff, you at least need to do it with some clarity and concision, So, that was a bit irritating to realize. But the honest truth is, I'm still sick as hell, and a big part of the reason for the mental fog is that we haven't slept around here in a week, and I just realized we're not going to anytime soon because the circus tent is back up. The band, now there's a live band. Last night it was just recorded music, but it sounds like I heard a real bass player, a pretty good one too. But yeah, it's just relentless, Like I can't even sleep to fix the cold until like Monday probably. So anyways, regardless of all that, I wanted to come on and address some things that I saw in the comments last night. Not really even because of how they relate to me, but because they suggest that there's a lot of denial, even amongst outside of the box kind of thinking people, about the level of surveillance state that we're truly in right now, and the seriousness of that. I've done some analytical thinking about this, and I realized that part of the motivation for some of the people questioning. Well, let's back up a little bit actually. So, this particular comment. Somebody said something like, they're not silencing you, and they kind of made it sound like I thought I was like getting hunted by the CIA or something. It's nothing like that. I'm talking about getting my content throttled, right? It's not on that level. And a couple other people saying like they just don't do stuff like this or whatever. Like, I thought I made this clear, but I have been notified. Right? Like on Facebook, they said for at least 180 days, your content will be moved lower in people's feeds because of something that happened on YouTube. None of this is conjecture. I've literally been notified. So, like, if you're in denial about that type of shit happening to people, you can't. And the thing that motivates it, I think, at least in part, is that when I have political views that don't align, people don't want to believe that my content is being throttled because it suggests that the things that they want to believe might not be true and that I might be right. And if you think about that, that is the propaganda machine really fucking showing its leverage. So don't let yourself be that guy. This is real. So let's back up to the health issues a little bit, right? Because we have to have some context in case anybody's new, which is unlikely because one of the things when your shit is throttled, they put your notifications out to the same little group of people all the time. So I had to have this surgery, right? And we had to cancel like a year's worth of events, and that was like our income, So afterwards, I didn't really get better exactly. Like something was weird, and I was drained all the time and like having too much pain still and losing a ton of weight, and my foot was turning purple. It really looked like something seriously bad was going on. And that's kind of true. But basically, I don't even remember how long ago now. It wasn't that long ago. I started having like unbearable pain. And I figured out what was happening. The surgery, bacteria had gotten in the wrong place, basically, from the large intestines to the small. And that's why I was losing all the weight and why I felt fatigued and why I got the medication and I started to feel better. While I was down, I found out that things that like shed a lot of light on my entire life, really, you know, but heavy shit. So I'm trying to process that too. And I get better from, you know, I took the medication. I realized, holy shit, like I might actually get my health back. And this is, you know, now we're up into like the last week or whatever. And then I just get this flu, you know. So it's like I just have not even had a chance to like be rested and like process the insights that I've had. And, you know, so that kind of brings us to the main point of our discussion tonight, which is, you know, shadow banning and oppression of. I've been dealing with this forever. It's nothing new, but I recently had some success on Substack, and you know, I was kind of thinking it's a long shot to like get in this platform and then just immediately start making money, which is exactly what happened. And because I was sick, I thought that just not posting had, you know, the kind of like my posts didn't, no one saw them and shit, like the notes all of a sudden. And I was like number 33 in my niche and stuff like a week earlier. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And so I find out about the Digital Securities Act, which requires them, they're calling it transparency. Isn't that cute? We're encouraging transparency. That's how they put it. We're encouraging transparency. What it actually means is that they're obligated by law to, if somebody's flagged, to flag them on other platforms and dethrottle their content. So, anyways, you know, I told you I was going to be rambly. I warned you. You know, we can't sleep. I'm sick, like stressed out. So, my apologies. That's just how it's going to be tonight. I mean, what else am I going to do? You know, I can't like work with all the noise. I can't play guitar because I don't have enough energy. You know, sitting here with you guys is best case scenario. Yeah, so what was I talking about? Like the people saying that this isn't real. I mean, I've already put it on screen in live streams. Like, I don't know what else you want. It's definitely real. You know? And another thing that I saw a couple times, like people suggesting that the probabilities and whatnot that I've cited from these AIs regarding certain proofs and whatnot, that you know, just like, oh yeah, AI psychosis is on the rise. Look, people that are doing that are predisposed to ego inflation, and they're asking AI stupid shit about the Akashic records that it couldn't possibly know. And you know what I mean? Like, I use the AI to get statistics, to find studies, to compile data. I do not ask it its opinion about like my spiritual fucking being or whatever. Like, none of this shit is coming from any kind of context like that. And whenever anything's important, I cross-reference like 3 different AI platforms every time. And none of this stuff is entirely based on AI either. You know, when we're talking about the Langlands program and the Klabi-Yao and whatnot, like that, videos on YouTube. It's, you know what I mean? Like, just doesn't make any goddamn sense. I just wanted to address that too. You know, and you guys, you do have to be careful with it because it will feed into your shit if you're, you know, not conscious of, you know, confirmation bias, like setting yourself up for confirmation bias. And, you know, like, it's just common sense, really. It's just, you got to use common sense. And the people that are driving themselves nuts are deficient in that, unfortunately. You know, but give me a fucking break. It's, it's not got anything to do with this situation. I had a lot. Oh, yeah. I have to apologize also to Eminem and his fan base, I guess, because I, a while back, said that one of the signs that our society is falling is that Eminem is so widely regarded as a genius. And, you know, I said he's clever, but that's kind of ridiculous. And the reason is that, from my point of view, genius is like divine. Like, you know, Maynard James Keenan, for example, writes a line and you hear it and it's like witnessing a thunderbolt up close and there's 6 layers of meaning, you know, and it has purpose. It does something in your consciousness. You know, Rin Rin Vicodin does not. But then I heard Rap God for the first time the other night, and I listened to a bunch of other material from after I quit listening to him, and there was like Joyce level, like stacks of meaning, and I was really just embarrassed that I had said that about Eminem, because holy shit, man. And then also he's put his life on the line to tell the truth, and that's a really big deal, you know, when you have everything and you're willing to do that. I mean, he put his daughter at risk as well with this stuff, but like, for example, the story is that Dre wouldn't let him release this track, but he called Pac's murderer by name in this track like 10 years before he was charged, and he called out Diddy, and like, I mean, it was insane. To think about like the level of shit this guy was willing to start, you know, risking everything, putting his family in danger to try to tell the truth and expose these people. That's a fucking gangster. So, mad respect to Eminem. My bad. My bad, dude. I didn't know. Congratulations. That's really awesome. It's really inspiring. It really is to see that there are people out there still that are willing to go to that extreme. I am, you know, I don't really want to, but it's like there is so much potential at stake in this game. One person doesn't mean much, you know, and I suspect very strongly that our consciousness is durable, if not eternal, you know. So it's like, fucking whatever, kill me, I'll be back. Like, it's not really a problem, you know. And I think that's one of the main reasons that consciousness is such a threat to the establishment. Because if you have an entire population that knows that, like, what are you going to threaten them with? You know, like, whatever, go ahead. I got all the time in the universe, bitch. Like, you know what I mean? What's a little 49-day timeout or whatever? You know, Bob Marley, back in the day, like, walking like he talking. You know, he got shot twice and then went on stage like 2 days later in full, you know, easy to shoot him from a million different directions. And he actually tricked the 2 opposing political leaders to coming out on stage at the same time. He told them both that he was going to support them. Tricked these guys into coming out and put their hands above his head, and he's all jumping up and down with bullet holes in him. Like, go ahead, man, blast me again, you know? Like, that's the kind of energy that we need right now. And it was really nice to see that Eminem is a person that's willing to take it to that level. You know? I mean, our basic problem is a crisis of meaning. Nobody gives a fuck about anything anymore. You know, and I realized I was kind of getting to that point in some ways, you know, because I guess you kind of get jaded, so many expectations were not met. Like in the early 2000s, we really looked like things were moving in a good direction. People were becoming aware of the totalitarian state forming around them, and they were seeming to see through the political charade, and like psychedelics were kind of blowing up again, and it's like, I knew it. You can't suppress consciousness. It's an emergent property. You know what I mean? It's entrained with a magnetic attractor. In hyperspace, fool, what are you going to do? You can't do nothing. You can introduce dissonance, but your little puny human ass is not going to stop that level of magnetic entrainment. NWO is big and bad, but relative to the grand scope of things, they're nothing. And they serve a purpose. They are imposing limitations in order to give form. They are creating resistance in order to facilitate movement. Like, the pressure to create a diamond, like it all makes sense. But I really felt like we had won. And over the last couple of years, I've been like, man, maybe the machine really is out of control. There's no stopping the fucking thing at this point. And it's difficult to fight a battle that you think is futile. Trying to act like it's not. I'm not very good at faking, I can't really bullshit. Like, I don't want to. So having to pretend like I have positive expectations when I don't, it doesn't really suit me. Luckily I just couldn't decide exactly. But I guess what I'm saying is I get the apathy to an extent. I also think that the transcendental haven't been sort of edited from our experience since Jerry Garcia died, basically, like, on a large scale, that whole, like, deities and rights kind of experience of the universal mind and that sort of gnosis induction that occurs under certain circumstances with music and whatnot. Like, there's nothing out there to consistently remind people of what is beyond their day-to-day experience. If people don't think something is there, they're not going to reach for it. They don't know that it's a thing. And I think the machine has successfully pretty much excised all of the music that was capable of really establishing that connection. Tool does it to an extent, But I really do think that's a big part of the problem. We don't have any point of reference in popular culture anymore that is transcendental. Like, speaking of censorship, I watched a video interview with Extentacion, I think is how you say his name. I've never really listened to his music because the little clips I heard I thought were just dumb mumble rap, and I think a lot of it was. But this interview with this kid blew me away because he clearly knew, what was up with consciousness, and like, he totally got it. And he's dead in a random robbery. Like, all of a sudden, I'm not so sure, He was super popular, right? And he started talking this shit, and then he got shot. Like, I mean, maybe. And I mean, really, you guys, that's where we're at right now, I think. This feeling of, like, inevitable doom that I've had, I kind of feel like I might be staring down the barrel of it all of a sudden, which is not pleasant. But I do know that collectively, we are at the point of no return. Like, something's got to break, people got to get real, and it's got to happen now. You know what I mean? If there's any chance of turning the tide, it is now, and it requires action on our part. The universe is not going to just do it for us exactly. We have to brave the waters, you know, and it's going to require risk and sacrifice. And the thing is, I've taken risk and made sacrifice to the point where I don't have any left, you know. That's like just where I'm at, you know. I'm exhausted from this entire process, really, you know. But you can't give up, you know. You can't, like, after an entire lifetime, I've been expecting this shit, and I've been focused, providing what mitigation I can. You know, in the last couple of months, like, I've been validated in so many ways as extraordinary, you know, and it's wild to this feeling of like, okay, I'm finally comfortable in my skin, primed to do my job exactly right. And it's like there's just, I'm like boxed in and like more helpless than I've ever been in my life, you know. Like I literally have been banned from promoting any content on every single X for no reason. Just I tried to promote something and it's like your account is no longer eligible for ads, and I'm like, why? And they're like, none of your business. And you know, Facebook, same thing, no explanation given. I'm just not allowed all of a sudden. And then YouTube, can't do it. They actually wasted a ton of my time too, because they kept like suggesting like, oh, okay, well, you got to use a different payment method. No matter what payment method they're just all rejected. You know, they're all good. You know, and then when I realized the DSA thing with the Substack, that they're all obligated to dethrottle people that have been dethrottled. It's like, son of a bitch, they really got me. You know, like, I'm really pinned in here. And it's like, it's almost not a coincidence. It's like, it's corresponding exactly with me coming into my own fully, in a sense, you know. It's like, isn't that a bitch? It's almost like they saw that coming. But, you know, I am a believer in the universal mind, and I can't imagine all of this has happened for nothing. So I still have some kind of faith that can override this bullshit and make something meaningful happen, you know? And one of the reasons for that is that I look out across the social media landscape, and I don't see anyone with a sizable platform saying the shit I would say if I had the opportunity to, you know, certain people, to engage certain people. It would be hilarious, you know. And I would not be as reckless with it as I am on this channel, because I know it's mostly just the same little group of people that have, you know, just like we know each other by now, so it doesn't matter that much, you know. But okay, here's something I missed earlier. Somebody said that they enjoyed my content when it was plant medicine based and I didn't talk about politics. That never happened. There was never a time when I was plant medicine based and didn't talk about politics. I have always said the same fucking thing about the political theater in the United States. It's fake, and, you know, if you don't fucking snap out of it and realize it, you're all fucked. You know, I've always said that. That's nothing new. And I'm not ever been focused on plant medicine or magic or anything, because it's all part of a bigger picture, you know. And that bigger picture is liberating ourselves from the influence of fucking trauma and our ancestral baggage, and aligning ourselves with a fucking sense of purpose, how to do that, why to do it, and then all showing all the ways that science is validating things that it has laughed at, like me, you know, for a couple of centuries, and exposing the motivations for that. You know, that it is institutionalized bias is not there because it just developed on its own. It's engineered, you know, and the psychedelics are just a part of that. And you know what I mean? Like, I'm not I'm not here to just talk about ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is amazing, you know, but there's a bigger picture here, and that's the point, you know. And no, I'm not going to stop talking about politics because I'm right, and it's important. You know, there's no question that I'm correct about shit in that realm. If you go back and watch all of my old streams, I predict the behavior of the system exactly correctly without ever missing. That means that I understand the system, you know. There's no fucking way around it at this point. Like, the tariffs, for example, that have also caused us a problem. I heard a comedian, he's funny, he's an Asian dude. I think he took over the Tonight Show or something, and he was talking about the tariffs, and he almost got it. You know, he's like, it had something to do with Trump's like ally in Brazil, like getting him out of trouble somehow by putting tariffs on. It's just stupid. It doesn't make any sense. And he actually said, all that does is make coffee more expensive for me. But then he started talking about how stupid Trump was, and I'm like, holy shit, man. Do we really not understand that's all this is about? That these tariffs and stuff are part of a calculated plan to destroy the proletariat classes? Like, is this really lost on anyone at this point? Like, what the fuck, man? Really? Yeah, it's to make your coffee more expensive, dude. That's it. Like, this isn't about punishing China. Like, you know how sophisticated China is? Like, whatever the United States can think of, they've already come up with a plan 20 years ago to do, you know what I mean? Like, what the common man interprets when he sees shit happening on the world stage is because of his linear cognitive processing, right? Like, the explanations satisfy the immediate, like, equations, you know what I mean? Like, those surface level things. So they're just like, okay, well, I get it, and that's good. Just if you're neurodivergent and you have a bunch of parallel processing going on, it's not what it looks like, you know. So, yeah, I get it. I understand how people are stuck in these perceptions, but, you know, we have to get out of them. And if somebody doesn't tell people about them, you know, I mean, so I just want to say to those people that have told me to shut up about that kind of shit, you work for the machine, bitch. Like, get up out of my community. You know, you really do. You work for them. All the people that have punished me for saying things by taking their financial support away, you work for the machine, stupid. Like, you never should have been giving me money in the first place. You know what I mean? You work for them. If you're using money to manipulate, like, you know, how, oh, I don't like what you're saying, so now I'm going to, you know what I mean? Like, that's how they do it. You keep you in line, and the dollar is the, you know, like, you are an extension of the fucking machine acting like that. You know, and you're punishing me for being right and trying to help you, stupid. Like, you know, and that was another thing. Somebody was like, you gotta quit calling people idiots. I've never called any person an idiot. Idiots are not people. They're not people. Their ego and their instinct and their fucking stupid. It's not like a person with Down syndrome has a low IQ, but every single one of them I've ever met has a huge heart, and everyone else says the same about them. They're not idiots. They just don't have a lot of cognitive processing power. That's a completely different thing. They're people, you know? I just wanted to clarify that when I use that language, what I mean. You know, we're talking about automatons here. We're not talking about people. I don't know any people that are idiots. I only know idiots that are idiots. I haven't even looked at the chat because I'm just a mess. Yeah, the extentacion thing, it was wild, man. I was not expecting that from that kid. Yeah, I tried uploading to Rumble. I criticized Trump, and my views went from several hundred a video instantly to like 3. They're not uncensored. They're just uncensored if you happen to be a right-winger. It's absolute bullshit. Just like X, His censorship actually went up 21%. Compliance with government requests for censorship went up 21% when he took over after the fucking pandemic, right? So if there was ever a time that censorship was justified, let's just playing devil's advocate. I'm not saying it was. But if it was really a real situation and there was all that danger, like, that would have been the time that maybe it was justified. It went up after he bought Twitter. 21% more compliance with government requests. You know what I mean? It's absolute bullshit. Stop falling for it. Stop falling for it. They're all lying. They're all playing roles. Elon Musk is full of shit. Donald Trump is full of shit. Joe Biden is full of shit. They're all full of shit. All their pundits are full of shit. They're all puppets. None of it's real, Like, people just got to get that through their heads. That's the first step. It really is. When people awaken, it's always politics first, and then the other shit starts unraveling, There's rules to this shit. I wrote me a manual, step-by-step booklet for you to get your gnosis on track, not your wig pushback. Like, that's the first thing. Like, people have to fucking snap out of that. And it's such a hard one because they are able to offload so much responsibility to, that's a huge part of the addiction to the system, is that there are things the common man doesn't want to shoulder. There's things he doesn't want to take responsibility for. There are things he feels helpless about. And so even if those authorities are clearly worst case scenario maggots, it's just so tempting to just kind of slough all that burden off onto these fucking monsters, Thing is, you guys, it's all a circle, so it doesn't really go anywhere. It's just still coming back to you. It's still your responsibility. It's an illusion that you're doing that anyways. Like, there are concentration camps in the U.S. Everyone knows it. They were selling merch for a concentration camp. For real. People were buying this shit. Like, do you know how fucking sick and insane Americans look to the outside world right now? Like, merch for concentration camps. Are you fucking people serious? Like, what the actual motherfucking fucking hell? Like, and then 1,200 people go missing from this thing, and the government's just like, what, bitch? Like, what? We never had them. I don't know who you're talking about. Like, what? Who? What you gonna do? And people are like, oh, I guess I'm gonna go back to work. Is my latte ready yet at Starbucks? Like, no, man. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. People are guilty of all the good they don't do, as well as their sins or whatever. You can't do that, man. You can't just turn your back on all this shit. You can't turn your back on 2.5 million Iraqi civilians. I thought the number was 250,000. Turns out it's 2.5 million. You know what I mean? You can't just, like, laugh about that. Like, oh, yeah, they didn't have any weapons of mass destruction, and go back to drinking your latte. You know what I mean? Like, there's rules to this shit. I wrote me a manual, a step-by-step booklet for you to get your game on track, not your weak pushback. You can't act like that. You can't Hiroshima and Nagasaki and just go, fuck it, we're the great generation or whatever. No, you're shitbags. Like, you let your government do that and didn't do anything. And then LSD came along and, like, tried to wake you all up, and you're like, wow, yeah, we need to fix this. And then they're like, how about a 2-car garage? And you're like, yeah, fuck it, all right, never mind. That's not going to work. It's not going to work. Our ancestors fucked up royally. They really did. And they're really being a bunch of bitch-ass hoes about fucking helping us fix it, too, Kind of like, what? We don't even see it, What do you mean? I voted for Biden. holy shit, man, you guys aren't for real, right? Like, really, and people telling me to stop talking about it. That fucking, what the fuck? They're like, we got to get rid of the racist Trump by putting this guy that eulogized a Klan leader, calling him a friend and mentor, and like said about Barack Obama that, come on, a clean, well-educated black man, you just don't see that, and had to drop out of the fucking race because of that comment. I mean, I could go on and on, man. This dude's like one of the most overtly racist politicians in the history of the fucking U.S. political system. He deliberately made fucking legislation to solve black unemployment by putting them in prisons for his corporate cronies because they had just come up with the prison for profit idea. Like, this is your solution to the totalitarian racist on the other side, you dumb motherfucker. Like, what? I'm sorry, And people are like, telling me, you should quit talking to people like that. No, dude, they're killing us. You know what I mean? They're like, what do you mean being rude? Rude? Compared to what? Dragging us all into the fucking jaws of death like a bunch of fucking morons. Like, you know what I mean? I'm supposed to be polite. Like, I don't care anymore on that level. We need the people that know what's up to take action. And if I'm abrasive, it's because I'm trying to be funny. And if you don't like it, you're probably a pussy. And you need to stop getting offended by shit. If you get offended by things, you need to be offended by them. I've always felt pretty strongly about that. And the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Making people too soft and emasculating all the men and everything is definitely part of the tactic of ensuring that there's no threat from the proletariat. I'm not going out like that. I would rather be a warrior in a garden than a fucking pansy in the garden, I guess. It just seems wild to me, man, that like you're supposed to be polite about people fucking trying to feed your children to dictatorships and stuff. Like, it doesn't matter if they just don't know any better. They're still doing it, You stupid is as stupid does. Like, that's what's actually happening. You know what I mean? And as somebody that has been trying to tell them since I was literally a child, like literally a child, you know what I mean? Like, and getting hell for it, really, too. Like, come on, man. Cut me some slack. Yeah, I'm mad. Talking some shit every once in a while, but the hell, man? Would it be an unamendable constitutional? Look, this is the thing. Until you change the consciousness of the people, which is totally possible. Science is behind this 100% at this point, right? We have the understanding of psychology. We have the understanding of fucking magnetism. And like, it is doable. We have techniques. We've had these techniques for thousands of years for, deprogramming the bullshit and catalyzing organic internal processes that actually lead to genuine fucking gnosis. We know how to do this. We know how to do it forever. Until you do that, it doesn't matter what fucking republic, democracy, communist, whatever the fuck, it's going to turn out the same way. That's the reality. You have to change the consciousness and wake the people up. Otherwise, it doesn't fucking matter. You're not going to fix this that way. It's not going to be fixed that way. It's not. It never has been. You can't just do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And things, not only do you not get the same results, you get worse and worse and worse. The trajectory remains the same. The people are fucked. The people with the wealth become a smaller and smaller group. Freedom start fucking disappearing. You know what I mean? Like, and it just accelerates the more you do the same shit. And you're finna tell me you're gonna do the same shit again? You know what I mean? Like, what are people fucking talking about? It's so goddamn absurdly, obviously stupid at this point I can't believe, I can't believe anybody's still trying to fucking go along with it. You know, it is outrageous that people don't get this yet, you know? And the thing is, like, it sounds like utopian, I guess, and unrealistic that you're just going to, like, fix the consciousness of a planet full of people. And of course, it's not that easy. And, you know, there are elements of it that most of the population does not yet understand there are mechanisms that facilitate it. You know what I mean? And that's one of the reasons for the suppression of my content and the control they're exerting right now, is that we do have those mechanisms to explain to people how this could actually be done at this point. You know? And that's a big fucking problem for the establishment, because they have actively, believe it or not, you can find records of this too. You don't have to take my word for it. Going all the way back to Egypt, where they knew that a population that understood the stuff that I'm talking about was not rulable, and that's why they created Christianity, and that's why they created Islam, you know, probably Hinduism too. Buddhism, I think, is also a trap to an extent, you know. I mean, there's good things in all of this stuff, or they wouldn't have ever gotten popular. But they were actually designed to curtail the spiritual evolution of the human race, and it was successful. That's what they're for. That's how they're used, you know, these devices. And a sovereign, illuminated humanity is the number one enemy of the state, and it always has been. Always has been. It's their number one objective, to oppress that, like, property of the universal mind. You know, self-awareness really is almost the totality of it. But it has to do with expanding your concepts of self, you know, because it's much bigger than just the individual. And that has to be known through experience. It can't be just, you know, something we accept as some quaint shit that mystics say, we're all one or whatever, you know. That has to be experienced, but that's not hard. You know, it's not hard to arrange. And it's happening to a lot of people too. I realized, like, you know, when I was having the problem with the infection, that I had all these insights and stuff into certain things, and over the last, like, week, I've realized it wasn't just me. It was everyone like me was, like, having the exact same realizations about the exact same shit. It was crazy, man. It's just all of a sudden I see all these, you know, neurodivergent people on TikTok, like, saying, like, holy fuck, I just realized I've been gaslighted my whole life and I have a genius IQ and all this. And I was like, what the fuck, man? How many, you know? And all at the same time. They're just all blink. Like, I mean, it's really crazy to watch. And I understand why that happens too. People are cycling higher. It's like a more dense ball. They're, like, more synchronized, you know, because it's like a more subtle and, like, fast. It's like, I don't know how to describe, like, you know, like, I get it, but it was still weird to realize that was actually happening. And it's just happening just now, you know. That's another thing to consider. Like, it really does look like in the last week or so there was, like, a molt or something. Like, a lot of people that are capable of leading the charge here, a lot of shit that really changes the dynamics of, at least, you know, our relationship to our environment. And like I've not been sick since I realized all this stuff, so I don't really even know how it's, how would it be affecting my performance and whatnot if I was, not in the middle of a flu. Well, somebody's kind of asking about getting people to understand things. It's not exactly necessary to have everyone understanding things on a technical level. Like clearly that's not going to happen. But there is a social dynamic that has been engineered and exacerbated and fomented for the purposes of maintaining an exploitative advantage. It really is. Social engineering is a real thing. They've been doing it for thousands of years. This is not conspiracy theory. Lao Tzu was writing about it fucking 2,500 years ago or whatever. Like this is not new. And the engineering has gotten increasingly sophisticated because they have better and better mechanisms. I mean, you got to understand there are generations of people who have been obsessed, like entire families of like really high IQ people, Ivy League, taught for fucking like longer than centuries. You know what I mean? Like refining their understanding of psychological warfare on the masses and shit. Like people have no idea what they're fucking dealing with, And it's partly because people can't believe in things that are beyond their capacity to understand them. That's one of the problems with having a population that only has 100 IQ. That's why they are dumbing people down too, to ensure that they don't figure it out because they can't. If it's beyond their processing power to conceive of, they're not going to believe it, and they can't fucking see it. So why would they believe it? It's a nasty trick, but that's what's up. So if you remove that dissonance, all biological systems are tending towards homeostasis, right? If the ants are fighting, it's because the farm is being shook. You can put black and red ants in the same farm, and they won't fight unless you shake it, and then they all start fighting each other. And civilizations, believe it or not, are biological systems. And what is going on in this world is not natural. This is not our natural state. This is what happens when people have been fed a lie, forged upon a lie, forged upon the shadow of a lie, built on the bones of the truth, Like, it's people have beliefs that are based in absolute deception. People think that serving themselves absolutely is in their best interest, which is not true. It's actually about balance. And if you create a balance with your environment, then you can flourish more. So guess what? Total self-interest is not self-interest. You take anything far enough, you end up fucking with the opposite, like it's not hard. You know what I mean? Like, and it's crazy to be in this position where I'm like, look, the truth isn't even hard to see. And it's like, it's fucking scary that it's so rarely perceived. But it's not that hard. And that's why they spend all the money on propaganda. Because it's actually really hard to keep people from seeing the shit that I've been describing all these years, It's not that hard. It's right in front of their faces. And they actually have to put a tremendous amount of effort into keeping people from seeing it. And their ability to do that is running the fuck out, So, I mean, I don't know if I directly addressed what I was originally trying to get at. It's like, well, how are you going to get everybody on? The context changing is enough, in large part. And No one is talking about an absolutely perfect world here, but we're talking about a major improvement, and in lieu of that, we have certain doom. Period. End of story. Like, you guys see where this has been going all this time? You think it's just gonna fucking, like, suddenly change direction because you elected a different person? That's never happened before. It's fucking never happened before. Never. This time, maybe? Shut the fuck up. Like, I was so tired of it. Stop it, man. Are we really the next election cycle? Are people really gonna fall for whatever puppet they put up? Like, am I really going to have to sit through this again and, like, watch this bullshit happen again? No, man. That's why I'm trying to rally support here. Like, let's make voices like mine fucking loud enough. I really think people are ready to hear it, I've been amassing proof. That was one of the things about my plan. If I could raise a few grand, then I could pull off this plan maybe that would allow me to get around the shadow bans. But then I realized I wouldn't be able to reference any of all this trail of proof that I've left over the years, and all that work would mean nothing, It's like, that sucks too. Either way, though, resources to buy my way over the fucking shadow bans, it's still possible somehow. I can, we can figure it out. VPNs and, like, whatever. I'm not going to even describe it, but that's the thing. Like, we have to have better resources. And I don't know what the fuck to do about that. Over the last year and a half, we have just been beaten ridiculously, and it sucks to have guilt about that kind of shit too, because it's like my health, it's like that dragged us through put us in the ringer. Like, we were doing better than we had been in ever, when I realized I was going to die if I didn't get a surgery, And then instead of the normal, like, 2 months to recover, it's been, I don't know what. I mean, I am excited that at least I have the infection gone and I'm just sick now. Like, normal cold that's just lingering because there's parties that won't go away for a week and I can't sleep and, type shit. I'm definitely just rambling now, but I'm at the end of my rope. What the fuck do you want from me? Like, I definitely don't feel like mincing words more than ever at this point. I'm not apologetic for anything. You know what I mean? I've stood my ground, maintained my principles, fucking come hell or high water. I've been mocked and laughed and fucking, called names and gaslighted and fucking income fucked with, and you know what I mean? Like, I'm not finna be polite. I don't care, Like, I've been trying to help. I've been right, and motherfuckers have been ruthless with me, and I'm supposed to be polite now? Like, fucking eat a dick. Who the fuck are these people? And you know what they are? They're the agents of mind control. They are. They're fucking agents of mind control. Trying to keep you in line. No, you gotta be polite. You know that Rolling Stone song? He says, the devil is like, use all your well-learned politesse. You know why the devil wants you to be polite, motherfucker? Right? Jesus, man. And the thing is, too, like, we are at the point where we can communicate the gnosis and we can demonstrate it to a degree that makes it pretty hard to challenge. I mean, these things are difficult to do, absolutely, because a lot of it is subjective. For example, the way we send signals to each other, right? Like, I was listening to this Tool song earlier, and he mentioned we are one flesh, one spark, sons becoming. I know exactly what he's talking about, and it was from a vision, like, 20 years before the album came out. But I know exactly what he's talking about. That kind of stuff that, like, that's kind of how we know that it's not in anyone's head, because like we all that comes to you independently, you know. And I guess that's been happening enough now that there are trails, like breadcrumb trails of proof, you know, for precognition, and there are scientific explanations, you know, coagulating up out of the void right behind them. It's really an extraordinary thing where, in a moment where there is a legit new consciousness in evidence, it's been here for a while, but it's, you know, it's provable basically now. We're understanding how it works. The people that have been burdened with it in a way and kind of confused by it because of the gaslighting of culture are realizing what the fuck is going on. You know, like, it's fucking crazy, man. And I'm telling you, that is why the algorithms are shadow banning people like me, and is why they, you know, Michael Levin. Look at Michael Levin. 3,000 views in his fucking videos. And I'm getting a message all of a sudden, oh, YouTube error, not receiving enough. Why? My internet speed is like a billion or whatever. Like, there's no reason. I haven't had a job in 3 years. I wouldn't ever get a job, like, really, unless you care about it. If you can't do it, won't make you sick. I know it won't. No, the stuff I'm chewing is definitely not making me sick. That's just ridiculous, man. Coca is full of antioxidants and vitamins and like a mild stimulant and shit. There's definitely not making me sick. And anyways, I would not be sitting here talking to you without it right now. I mean, I have been thinking like I need to stop chewing it on streams because it is cringy as fuck, and I don't like the way I sound and my lips are green and shit. But right now, I've had the flu for a week and we have fucking Quechua, like, I don't even know what you call that. It's like almost like rock music, but like circus rock or something that is, you know, 12 hours a day until the sun comes up. Like, no, man. I'm chewing some damn coca right now. It's keeping me alive, basically. Coca's not bad for you. No, what's bad for you is Coca-Cola, you know, Pepsi, fucking anything that they create, you know. I mean, the fact that there are still people that think the government ever does anything for their best interest blows my mind. You know, it's so easy to just use logic to defeat that delusion. You know, it's only recently that I've learned that psychology promotes that positive delusions are healthy. Now, if that doesn't reek of the machine protecting its interests and like planting institutional bias, that blew my mind. I was like, wow, really? You know, there are, well, if you believe things that are bullshit, but they're helpful somehow, then that's good. Whoa, man. Slow the fuck down, people. Like, wait, there are things that, oh, what is that line? It's so good. There are things that you can replace and others you cannot. The time has come to weigh those things. The space is getting hot. It's true. Ain't no time to hate, barely time to wait. Please consider supporting the channel. We can't do anything without that. I I can't wait to recover my health though, because this has been a long time. The surgery and then the weird like infection. And what happened with that actually is that they thought it was just a hernia, the regular like hernia repair. And they said the surgeon said when he opened me up, like my intestines were like in my scrotum and stuff. Like it was like just an insane mess. And they were expecting like a 1 hour surgery or something. And they're like, oh shit. I was crazy listening to this dude talk about it too. He's like, yeah, man, we blew some air into somewhere and your balls like blew up like this big. And he was like, it was nuts. And I was going like, oh my God. The surgeon too, he'd made a lot of jokes about like blow, and I realized they probably, when they realized they were going to be in there all day, he just busted out a gram and like, and I'm just imagining these like gacked out Latin fucking surgeons like laughing at my like balloon balls and shit, and all gacked out, it's probably sweating into my intestines. God, So yeah, that's why when they put me back together, I think some things got in the wrong place, and fucking life, man. Yeah, but anyways, I was just saying that I'm really kind of relieved to finally have those bacteria straightened out, and it's really frustrating to have like a really bad cold. Like as soon as I get out of it all, and I've got all these problems that need to be addressed, the universe is like, how about a week-long Quechua fucking circus rock party in your bedroom window and a flu, just for good measure, while you're figuring out that you're actually shadow banned on fucking Substack as well, and all your advertising has been cut off from every single platform simultaneously. And, I'm just going like, man, I had just really gotten my fucking being together to go to war. And the universe is like, yeah, whatever, dude. Weapon out, belly in. Then, son. Very fucking funny. It's funny too, like I've noticed there are people kind of in this community that like show up in my streams just to talk shit. Like how fucking little of a life do you have that you're not even like, you can't even find something that you support to invest your time in? You're just gonna go and like be a fucking nuisance where people are trying to be supportive of each other. Like what kind of fucking douche rag would bother? Like, I mean, does it make people feel cool or something? Like, you think people are looking at you going, "Oh, what a badass" or something? Like, what the fuck do you even think you're doing? It's marvelously confusing to me. I almost tolerate it just because it's interesting that anybody could be that like mindless and trauma driven, that they would actually like just burn their precious moments, high is the way, but your fucking eyes are upon the ground, like I don't understand. Like that is some next level douchery. And what it tells me is that I am doing something that means something, because there's something in that person that knows they're fucking wrong as fuck, and they're provoked by me. So I guess I do get it. It just took me a second to think about it. So you're welcome, asshole, and I think I sincerely hope you get it figured out. If I didn't mean that, I would just block you from the channel. which I did do to somebody earlier today. 'Cause it's just at a certain point, man, you're just too dumb and annoying to tolerate. And that guy found that line. You know, one thing I haven't talked about much lately is like the process of coming into homeostasis and like what lifting ourselves up is really about, you know, and this is interesting on a lot of levels because of what it implies about the relationship of consciousness to, I guess, you know, external components, if you can call them that even, of the universe. But one of the things that keeps us from this omega point, really, is what perfection is, I guess. It's the highest possible cycling, is dissonance. And fear is the greatest source of dissonance. And maybe the only one, really. You know, that all of the other negative shit somehow emanates from fear. And like, for example, I just discovered that my mother had known and kept from me that I had a genius IQ since I was in second grade because it allowed her to control me. And if I found out, then she might not be able to control me. So she literally hid that from me my entire life and actually encouraged me to think I was an idiot. You know, knowing that the whole time, like literally mocking me for suggesting it and shit. And that's one of the reasons I'm sick right now, maybe, is I'm like flushing this fucking demon from my being, you know. But it's the example that I chose because in the end, in order to really be free from it and elevate myself, I have to have understanding and forgiveness. And that doesn't mean that you have to feel like the person didn't do anything to you or something. You know, people misunderstand, I think, what forgiveness requires of us in like realistic terms, you know, but you can't be buoyed to anything. Like when I was thinking about how much differently I might have responded to, you know, like when I was failing pre-algebra, if my mom, instead of just being like disparaging and mean, was like, you're literally a genius. What do you mean you can't do pre-algebra? Like, you know what I mean? If I was hearing shit like that instead of just like getting scowled at, and like, I mean, it's just, it's difficult to let go of something that, you know, then it's so pointless, you know, like her just lack of like self-awareness and, you know, but the reality is that it is the trauma, it is the sins of the father, you know, and who does that go back to? The person that, you know, essayed her as a little girl, and, you know, the guy that did that to them, probably, that turned them into a predator. Like, you know, you just keep going back and back and back and back and back, and there's just no blame. You know? This is why knowledge and understanding is so important, you know, and people get it wrong that spirituality is entirely about the heart and you must abandon logic and all that stupid shit. It's just no balance, man, you know, and knowledge of psychology and human behavior allows me to go through these processes and understand so that I don't have to hate, you know. The one thing facilitates the other. You don't just do shit or think shit or feel shit just because you think you're supposed to. That's not real. That's why people come off as being so corny and insincere. They are, because they're just trying to do the right thing. But if there's no understanding, they don't fucking mean it. You know? So that was my Stan from South Park moment tonight, I guess. I learned something today, you guys. I almost feel like in the state of mind that I'm in right now, I'm probably doing more harm than good, because I'm kind of like, just, it's hard to override the cynical aspect of myself at the moment, you know, because I've really maintained faith up until, you know, a certain point, despite a lot of odds, and sometimes it feels like you fucking fool. Why do you think no one does this? You know? The reality is I can't do otherwise, though. There is no deviating from any path that is like an option. You know, if it turns out to be a futile effort and leads to fucking doom, then I guess that's what evolution has in mind, you know, I don't know. The thing is, too, like Elvis Levi wrote about how you really can't think about it in those terms, because most of the people that fight this battle don't see the returns in their lifetime. You know, they always end up dying, and then 50 years later shit catches up or whatever, you know. I was just kind of thinking that things are moving so quickly that maybe that wouldn't be the case. You know, that we might see some reason dawn upon the eyes of man on this God-forsaken mudball. You know, I don't know if it was like Nietzsche or... no, it was that Openly Gay. He said Aleister Crowley is a madman who thinks he's Aleister Crowley. Oscar Wilde. He said, all men are mad, but the maddest of all are the ones who think they can bring reason to these madmen. I was like, damn. That's messed up, Oscar. I'm afraid you might be right, though. And, you know, I was talking also about the cynicism, too, that I'm struggling with, or whatever, that realizing the amount of, like, doubt that I had to carry because lunatics that didn't know what the fuck they were talking about were, like, convincing me that I was the... You know, it's hard to believe. And it's also difficult to process all the associated anger. Like, it mattered too, you know. There's a reason why people are waking up. You know, if there's a monster finna eat you and you're sleeping and you don't wake up in time to stop the monster, you're finna get ate. That's what's happening right now. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever been to heaven, but I have. I have. I know what it's like to be like rock star good at something, transcendental, and have beautiful women and be high, and able to manage all of that. And, like they're just tremendously interesting things that are possible in this reality. And leaders should be people that have a clear understanding of those potentials and understand that the objective of the human nervous system is to fulfill those potentials and explore them on behalf of the divine consciousness that animates the whole fucking thing. That's what we're here to do, and engineering society around that is totally within our capabilities. It's just the wrong people are flipping the switches and running the grid. And it's really that simple. They're fucking lying. The best systems of government and fucking economic management and shit are algorithmically derivable. Fool. That's... It's not hard. And there are apparently some countries where the leaders are kind of like that, They're like way more willing to play ball on that frequency than whoever these other psychopaths are. I honestly do not understand them. Like, what the fuck is wrong with them? Part of the problem actually is the billionaires, the tech billionaires, because they think they know. It's not. I heard this guy that worked for them talking about this the other day, and he kept saying they truly believe, and I was like, bitch, that's because they know. This is not fantasy. Immortality is on the table within 5 years or so. Like all of this, he was talking about all these things. These, like, the billionaires know that AI will be able to automate all this stuff, and like they don't need this population, and they know they're going to be able to like teleport, or they think he kept saying they think they're going to be able to teleport, and they think they're going to live forever and shit. It's like, no, bitch, they are going to, more or less. They're not delusional. I'm not saying that it's good that these fuckers are so self-centered and strung out on themselves, but they're not wrong either. That they can have this like automated utopia and live forever and shit. Like, they're not wrong. And like, I can't even really talk about it openly, because I know it'll happen. But we do know the whys and whats of what's happening here, and it's like I said, I wouldn't dare talk about it, but I'm certain of it. I have spelled it out pretty clearly on the channel before. Like, what is really about to happen and why it's about to happen. Even almost a necessity for it, to an extent. But it's not necessary. It serves the... Okay, so unchecked power with one goal state, right? If you don't check it, it's going to just continue to concentrate itself, and that power is just going to grow and grow and grow, right? So that's happening as long as people choose to turn a blind eye. We have to create a wave, a gigantic one, like right now, or they're gonna do it. They're gonna trim the fat, which means damn near everyone, and have their little fucking tech oligarch fucking utopia. That's what's going down. Don't kid yourself. You think about this, look at like Michael Levin, the way he's developing bioelectric medicine that regenerating limbs and heads and stuff eventually, I guess. With a ETA of like 5 years, like 3 years ago or something. And then they just reverse aging in monkeys too, like significantly, which is wild. But what you gonna do with all these people if they start living forever? And you know what I mean? Like, it's not hard to understand AI and immortal rich people. There's no need for this massive pain in the ass, dangerous population. And the thing about that is that from nature's point of view, it would agree, I'm sure, just objective. The thing is that there is a different impulse that is of fundamental importance. It is the heart and mind of the universe. And the people that seek to insert themselves as the only life forms are almost completely devoid of any connection to it, from what I can tell. So, against all odds, I think we sort of have the favor of God, I mean, that is one way to think about it. It's a preferable outcome because it's far more interesting. And the universe is here to experience itself, It does not guarantee success, but it's enough to motivate me. I know how cool and interesting and rewarding it can be. Like, I've been out there in ecstatic states and, like, I don't know, improvising with a band on LSD, when you're really fucking capable and also aware of the potential for transcendental states, and you know what I mean? Like, it's worth fighting for our ability to make that the point of human existence, not just to maintain our right to have it be part of it, But this duty of being a hollow tube to bring down fire from heaven should be fulfilled. And these fuckers that are obstructing that, they are the devil. Whether they're literally a cult of Satanists or not is irrelevant, almost, because they are functionally Satan. And while we're on the subject, let me reiterate that if you support either side at this point, you're just part of that machine. And you need to fucking come to your senses. Because we need you. Open your fucking eyes, man. It's not hard. And I do feel an obligation to, like, Bob Dylan and Jerry Garcia. And it's like, really, man? Like, we all put our whole lives into this, and these fuckers are just gonna, like, head in the sand and let themselves get eaten or whatever? Like, really? All this? Just to fucking punk out at the, final round, final boss, just some fat ass pedo with a fucking orange dick or whatever, like, and people are just gonna, like, punk out. Like, that's all they got is this fucking fat orange pedo. Like, I'm not scared of him, dude. Give me 5 minutes alone. I'll take care of that. Like, what the hell? Well, speaking of precognitive abilities and whatnot, like I've experienced that stuff so many times. I know it's a thing, but I've always had a lot of doubt and confusion around it too, because it's like it's not consistent and difficult to do deliberately. But with this recent revelation that the federal government tested me for ESP when I was 8 years old, and I apparently did really well. Like, things are shifting a little bit. So I'm gonna, as soon as I'm feeling better, I'm gonna really start putting more time into trying to cultivate that connection now that there's not so much dissonance in my being about it. And that should be interesting. And what brought that on is that I was thinking, like, they do have a plan, too. Whatever's coming next, it's probably been on the books for decades. People buying the whole bumbling idiot thing that they always do with their clowns to make it just look like it's incompetence and shit. The fact that people really think that elites would allow these clowns to, if they were really like that, to have any power. I mean, look, you guys get mad at me for saying people are stupid, but fuck me. Come on, man. Like, a chess player doesn't operate like that. You think a fucking king does? Like, that should be enough in and of itself to snap everyone out of it. Like, okay, you were being that dumb. And that's part of what keeps them locked in. People don't want to imagine it's their ego. They're like, there's no way I was that stupid. Like, that they were just, like, using this as a cover for their malicious shit. That, oh, derp, I'm just a dumbass. Like, okay. That error, the probability, it would occasionally benefit the common man if it was just error. Why doesn't that ever happen? If it's not malice, stop it, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, I'm really increasingly just, like, going, like, are you sure this is real? Like, almost waiting for, like, the curtains to get pulled back. And, like, the director to come out and stuff and be like, oh, that was funny as hell, right? Like, we had you going. Really thought you were on a fucking nut house floating in space, didn't you? Like, pretty sure that we do wake up, but it's we call it death. And don't worry, no one here gets out alive. Yeah, I know. And I feel bad too, because sometimes I forget that people weren't necessarily born like this. So some of us are actually figuring it out. And when I'm like, no, man, you have been that dumb and stuff, like the people that are just figuring it out are like, fuck, man, like, really, you gotta. So I apologize if that stings a little bit, but you know what? Don't take yourself too seriously, man. I've been dumb too. I've been dumb as hell. I've been so dumb at times that I can't even believe it happened, Like, looking back, it's like, who the fuck would have done that? Like, not me, And then it's like, as much as finding out that I actually had a genius IQ that was, like, certified was helpful in undoing a lot of the damage from the past, I also was like, holy shit, you dumb it. How, like, you got no excuse for any of it, you dipshit. Or what, like, I mean, so yeah, I'm right there with you, is what I'm saying. I mean, when I talk this shit, I'm always aware that I'm talking to myself as well, in some kind of way. But it is true that I didn't have to wake up. I never was like a believer in the first time my mom went to vote. I was a little child, and I was sitting in the car thinking, I can't believe she thinks this is real. I was like 7 or something. Like I just knew instinctively what was going on. It's just I already, I guess, had enough sense to think like they're not, whoever's really in charge is not going to like let these like Hollywood actors and shit like run the most powerful, like it's just stupid. Like it doesn't make any sense. Why would anyone believe this is real? It's just so goddamn irrational and stupid. It couldn't be real, And it's like, well, then why did they kill JFK? Well, because they do give them some power, but they generally do what the fuck they're told with it. They didn't account for JFK signing up to take LSD, which is he would have if he hadn't gotten shot. I think it was like 2 weeks later. He was going to be the first sitting American president to fucking dose and go to a Dead show or whatever. Like, they were not having that, man. Vice President Timothy Leary and, because it doesn't matter who it is, really. If they're intelligent enough and you give them LSD, they're just like the universal mind now. Like that's kind of the upgrade that occurs. So the results was sure. That dude would have been on the news explaining like what's really up to they're like, no. His brother signed him up for a session, and I shouldn't have did that. I don't think. I mean, he had other issues with the establishment for sure, but I think that would have been enough on its own. That really sucks too, because I know for a fact that they know what higher consciousness is. They do. They had archons. This is where the Gnostics got the idea for archons. They're not spirits. They were magistrates. And they were sent into the mysteries to sabotage it and steal the secrets to build Christianity upon. Because they knew from Pharaoh that sovereign people couldn't be governed. That's why they created the monotheism in Egypt to replace the mystery traditions and undermine free thought and sovereignty. And this is according to Perplexity AI, even with no prompting at all. I mean, other than just asking the question, like I had not gotten into this subject. There's no way that it was influenced. And I was like, why did they ban the mysteries in Rome and Egypt? And it's just fucking point blank was like, to control free thought and undermine the sovereignty of the people. And I was like, yep, that's what I thought. Thank you. It was wild to get that answer from an AI. I totally lost my train of thought, which is no surprise. Like really, I mean, I'm exhausted and sick, but you hear it? Can you guys hear it? Like, I'm not going to sleep, So, might as well just... Please consider supporting the channel, because I am going to get better, and then I'm going to try to fuck some shit up. And one of the first things I'm planning to do is make a compilation of all of these, like, precognitions and, put all the evidence of it with the dates and all the political predictions, too, like, all of it in just one video. And there's other weird stuff, too, that has happened that people can accuse me of editing, but it's pretty ridiculous. Especially, I can't prove it, but I didn't even do the editing on one of the videos. But it was the subject was just the Phoenix process in general, which is what I just called this. Some people call it Chapel Perilous, or, you know, the crossing of the abyss. There's all kinds of names for the thing. And I was talking about the 11/11 synchronicity that started the whole thing. And this was before I had ever heard of 11/11 from anyone else, by the way. And there were two 11s on this ruler. My girlfriend had already brought up the numerology of the number 11, asking me what I knew about it. And so that's what we were talking about. And then she has a 24-inch ruler and she's drawing something and she starts getting irritated. And I'm like, what's your problem? Why you ask me and then interrupt, like, you know, what's going on? And she's like, I don't know. And then she just froze and she's like, there's two fucking 11s on this ruler. And the other one was where 23 was supposed to be, which is the other number I associate with synchronicity. So I was talking about that in this video. And I had made another video about symmetry in 11/11. I wanted to put a card so you could link to it. And I'm looking and looking and looking. I'm like, man, I know I mentioned, and this little voice in my head, a little birdie on my shoulder was like, click on 11/11. And I was like, shut the fuck up, no way. And I clicked on 11/11. I hear 11/11, like perfectly. It's like not cut off at all, just exactly perfect. 23-minute video. It was videoed out of sequence in 4 different places, like, and it just happened to fall like that. And my partner edited it. You know, and I was like, that is just fucking ridiculous. So then I'm watching the rest of it, and at 23 minutes, which remember, this is the other number from the, oh, and by the way, what I'm saying about 11/11 in the video, one of the things I said is that just thinking about this type of shit will make it happen, and then click 11/11, you know, and so at 23 minutes, which is the other synchronicity number that I mentioned in the fucking video, my face glitches and freezes for like 5 seconds when I say, freeze an image in your mind. I'm talking about this in meditation technique. And I say that and my face literally glitches out and freezes and it's at like 23, 26 or something, you know. And I asked Grok, like, okay, I've been doing this for 7 or 8 years. I've never had that glitch before. First of all, like, what are the chances of this occurring? Both of these things in this, 30-minute video, like, blah, blah, blah. It asked for a bunch of other information, and it was like, basically, it's not a coincidence. It's just proof that the shit you're talking is real. I was like, word. Yeah, that's kind of how I took it. God. And like 200 people saw it or something, and probably most of them didn't notice, you know. And then people that accuse me of editing it in, I never really even called that much attention to it. Like, why would I take the time to do that and then not even try to, like, do anything with it, really? I didn't call a bunch of attention to it. Why would I fake something and then just not even try to make people notice it? You know? It's just, like, what the fuck, man? That's really why I didn't, kind of, you know? Because it's like, well, people are just going to accuse me of editing it anyways. Like, it would never occur to me to do something like that. And then I'm trying to imagine asking Enrica to conspire with me to, like, trick people and shit. This is just fucking ridiculous, man. Like, we couldn't imagine behaving like that. You know, like, one thing that people should have noticed at this point is that both of us will go down with the ship in the before we're gonna do shady stuff or manipulate anyone, or, you know, like, I'm pretty smart. I know a lot of stuff. If I didn't have ethics, I wouldn't have any problems either. You know, that's a fact. If there was nothing stopping me within myself, I would be a fucking menace if I would allow that. I just don't understand it. I don't even understand it. I don't understand why like let's say I pulled something like that off and it went viral and I got a bunch of money. I would just feel like a douche, and the money would be gone and I would still be a douche. Like I really don't get it. I also don't understand taking things by force or, you know, trickery or whatever and then enjoying them. Like, haha, like, oh, cool, now I got a bunch of shit. Like, even people sleeping with other people's girlfriends and stuff. Like, I always felt like, dude, there's some guys would be breaking his heart to be thinking about it the whole time. Like, the fuck is wrong with people? You know? Don't they realize it's themselves they're doing this shit to? Like, when I was a little kid, I was like sitting in my backyard and there was an ant. And I know I've told this story a few times, so you guys have probably already heard it. But there was an ant, and I just looked it dead in the eyes, and I was like, I wonder what it's like to be that ant. And this voice was like, before the end of time, you will have experienced an entire lifetime as from the point of view of every single ant that has ever lived, that is living or ever will live. And I'm like, what the fuck? That's like already in the like septillions or something. Luckily they don't live that long, I guess. And every animal, every person, every blade of grass, even the stars. And I'm like, fuck you. Like, what do you mean? you know? But I have a strong suspicion it's true, you know? And that's part of what the gnosis does to kind of keep people from being dickheads, I think, because it's, you know what I mean? Just now or later, you know, you can transfer your suffering, but it's just yours later. It's, you're not doing anything. Better to just lift each other up and see what happens. Somebody you lift up comes back around, and a hell of a lot better than looking over your shoulder all the time, too. Like, we've been hearing about this fall of the narcissist, right? I'm not shitting you. The day after I first became aware of this supposed, like, international narcissist collapse, my narcissist fucking stepmother, I found out my stepfather is fucking divorcing her. The next day, I heard about the narcissist collapse, right? And I've been trying to tell him for ever since he met her, like, it's not just bad. Like, we're talking, like, diabolically fucking evil, this woman. And, the last thing, like, my mom and him collected rubber duckies or something, and so I got this weird random message from him, like, oh yeah, the medium that Boleyn hooked us up with knew about the rubber duckies, and I was like, so what? My mom told her, dude, they were friends. Like, what do you mean? And he's like, no way, no way. I was just going like, holy shit, man, there's something up, because fake mediums and insight, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh, fuck. Because I have shared interests with this man, and his wife is clearly a gold digger trying to clean him out. And, like, dude. And just like a week later, his sister told me, he's leaving her, right? And I was like, what? So it must have clicked, finally, like, oh, wait a minute. I am being bamboozled. It was just hilarious that it was literally the morning after I heard about the worldwide narcissist collapse, I hear about the fall of Berlin. It was funny, too. We have a Mexican, he's not really, I don't know what to call him. I guess he's her sister's boyfriend is good enough. I was almost like he's an uncle, I guess, to Nagual. Trying to figure out the relationships here. Not that tight of a family, obviously. And he doesn't speak Spanish, but he's Mexican. Like, he looks Mexican. They're in Ecuador, so he just looks Latin, right? You think he speaks Spanish, and he called her whale. Like, he mispronounced her name and called her whale, and she was huge. I was dying, man. It was so hard not to just explode, you know. It's like, holy crap, I can't believe that just actually happened. And she's fully thinking like this dude, you know, look at him, he's brown, he's in Latin America, like, you know what I mean? He knows what the fuck he just said to me. That's what was going through her head, you know. Wow. That was epic. Worse things have happened to better people. Yeah, and think about this too, like all these neurodivergent people. I'm getting sick of that term already too, because they're using it to like just like make sanity a form of mental disability. That's really what it looks like to me, you know? Like even people that are autistic enough that it's like problematic are sane, you know? Like they might do weird shit sometimes out of naivety or like, you know, whatever, but they're not susceptible to programming and shit, you know? And those of us that are just flirting with a little tism are extremely fucking problematic for the system, because we might represent the first like batch of humans that understand what's happening and are capable of articulating it, you know. So they're like, shit, how do we come up with an excuse to drug them all? You know? Oh, you're all on the spectrum. It's a fucking spectrum of sanity that we need to erase from the palettes of human consciousness. Good luck with that, guys. Really, you know, and RFK was like, for a minute, he sounded like he was trying to like start like autism concentration camps and shit, you know, like they can't contribute meaningfully to society and blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh shit, here it comes. You know, like right around that time too, an autistic person in our community hit me up like, hey, can I come live with you for a while? And it's like, yeah. I would fucking run like hell if I was you, man. Get the fuck out of there. Before they come around with a little, you know, the little star, whatever they were using back in the German times. All right, let's see. I've done 2 fundraisers in a row. The Patreon has not changed. Nothing has happened, looks like. I'm going to continue this for like a week, probably. Trying to report. If nothing happens, I'll probably just fucking delete everything from the internet. Honestly, like, that'll be pretty depressing. Those of you that have supported us all these years, if I end up kamikazing this shit, I do apologize, but at a certain point, like, the mental health burden is maybe just too much, you know, and really, like, I was thinking, you know, even if I made that video compiling all of the proof of all of this stuff, then, you know, I'm shadow banned everywhere. 100 people see it. I put 6 hours into it or something, like, you know, maybe more. Probably it would be way more because I got to go through and find all this, you know, huge time commitment. Is it important? Like, objectively, according to AI, there is like the best evidence it can find anywhere on the internet for things like transconscious information reception. You know, things that are like 1 in 26 septillion odds of being a coincidence that I'm pretty sure too would stand up to any kind of scrutiny, you know. And to produce some shit like that and then have no possibility even of anyone seeing it, you know, unless I can buy my way over the hump, you know, like it's absolutely maddening, you know. And it's like at this point all I can think is just make it fucking go away. If that's what it is, you know. If that's what it is, then just make it go away. Because it's just ridiculously unfair and pointless. And it's funny because it's like in the details, I guess, you know, I would have been proven correct, but in the long run, I would have been proven wrong anyways. So I guess what are those details but the devil? And you know, it's not just about me proving something about myself. It's a really important thing that people need to recognize. You know, we have no value in our system for intuitive intelligence. That sucks. And it's causing a lot of problems, you know. The blind spots in the institutionalized narratives are produced by this fucking aberration, you know. The excessive dependence upon empirical data, like that needs to be there. They're not wrong. But when it gets to the point that like common sense is overridden, then you're just stupid again. You're just a very highly accurate type of stupid or something. You know, it's but it's still basically just, you know, stupidity. Like the cosmological constant that allowed the universe to exist, basically, the odds of it occurring by chance are one in a number so big that you couldn't count to it in all the time in the universe. Like, you know, and so rather than acknowledge teleology, even in the face of like all the other improbabilities, that if you just I've done this, you know, if you just calculate them all, just keep adding all these improbabilities, it just and science is going, okay, we're objective, unbiased, and yet we're going to default to these things that are so improbabilistic, they logically represent impossibilities. And try to say that's not because of institutional bias. Like, it's exhausting. Like, you motherfuckers. Like, this is so goddamn stupid. It's unbelievable. And it's so transparent. Like, it's not that it makes sense to avoid teleology, acknowledging it, because it doesn't. The probabilities are fucking phenomenally against it chance. Like, to the point where if it was anything but teleology or God, you know, you would dismiss the thing if it had an improbability factor that fucking gigantic. Anything else, and you're telling me this isn't a matter of institutional bias? Fuck you. Like, how can smart people like all sit around and say that they, you know what I mean? Like, are they all lying to fit in with each other, or like what the fuck is going on? Please help me out here, because I am genuinely fucking confused. You know, and I've actually talked to some academics about this, and the shit they say did, I mean, in a way surprise me, but they'll acknowledge this. You know, I was talking to a PhD psychologist. You know, she's got like 5 degrees, and I was like, well, you're a psychologist. Like, how the fuck, is this possible? And institutional bias and pressures was her answer. And another thing that tripped me out is that I noticed that she had a lot of political indoctrination herself. And I'm like, God damn, man. PhD in psychology and a stack of fucking other degrees, and you haven't noticed your own indoctrination? What the fuck, man? Like, just baffling. It's fucking baffling that it's even possible. And then I started to notice, actually, I probably shouldn't be dissecting her publicly like this, but I'm gonna anyways. That she had a ton of conflict, and it was because these political views were not, they created distance with the person that she was. So I think she was probably aware of it all and deeply struggling with it. But still, it was wild to me that, like, you could get all the way to that level of, like, understanding of psychology and still be carrying that kind of stuff with you. I just would have thought that you would have noticed it along the way and gotten rid of it. Your consciousness is definitely deranged and not thinking good thoughts most of the time. Well, that's not good. I'm so down to help edit music videos and post them and stuff, but I need permission from Harley and also figure out Yeah, I hope there's a commission to pay. Not just now, been bothering. What? Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up with the chat. Yeah, well, that's what I mean. I mean, people are making suggestions, but like every single one of them costs money. And I have been in bad health and fucking still, you know what I mean? And I'm like cut off everywhere. So, we need support. Otherwise, I'm just going to stop because I can't, there's pissing in the wind. Like, you get piss on your face. And that's gay. I don't want piss on my face. So, and I also realized, like, some of you guys told me that it's really been life-changing. I've seen it, so especially those of you that have come to drink medicine with me. And by the way, we do have events still in November. It's going to be in the Sacred Valley now, and then December and January, I almost have to look at the website to see exactly, because my brain is pulp and the morning newspaper is about to be printed on it. But yeah, we have that too. That would help if we could fill that, and then I could just forget about it. That would be. We have a few slots still for all three, actually. Sorry, it kind of distracted me too, because I'm like, now that I don't have the ability to promote anything on any platform, what the fuck am I going to do about that? Like, this is just nuts, man. To really come to that. It's going to be a pain in the ass, too, if I do this plan that AI concocted, because the extent that I'll have to go is so ridiculous. you know. And that's one of the reasons that people telling me it was, you know, not real, like, it's super stupid, because what are all these AI platforms analyzing? Why are they all saying the same thing? Why do they have the same terms for all the shit that, you know, like, and really optimally what I'll do, if we can just pull together, like, if we could fill these retreats or get a fucking benefactor, you know. And I do consultations and guitar lessons, all kinds of stuff too. So shoot me an email. You don't have to make a donation. You can, you know, sign up for a service or something. I guarantee you'll benefit from it if it's something that I offer. And what else was I going to say along those lines? I mean, I'm not the best like ad for myself at the moment, but you know, such is life. But yeah, oh yeah, I remember now. The goal is to go back to the United States and start performing again. Really, and I think that's extremely dangerous. Um, and I have a lot of hesitancy to ever go anywhere near that fucking place again. But I know that that's really fundamentally what I'm supposed to be doing. And if I'm not doing it, I'm going to continue to suffer and be in bad health even. Like, I really knew that a long time ago. But I heard Jerry Garcia once say, like, if he quit playing guitar for a couple of weeks, he'd start getting sick. I believe it. Because it's not just about playing a guitar. The shaman is a madman who has healed himself. And in order to remain healed, he must continue healing. So, like, once you're kind of locked into that cycle, like, you have to continue going around transmuting energy or you're just going to get sick. That's the deal for some reason. And it's fine with me. You know, I'm fine. I'm happy to be locked into it. And I'm pissed at myself that I ever walked away from it. That was super stupid. I never thought I would do that either. Like, people, you know, my band, I would tell them, you ever meet a girl and run off, I'll fucking kill you and shit. And like, I didn't ever think for a second that we needed to worry about that with me. Like, that was not even a possibility. You know? And that's not what happened either. My mom, unaliving herself, removed my motivation. And I didn't understand what was happening. So that's really, I got blindsided by my own psychology. Which also pisses me off to no end. Because if I had been aware of why I was feeling that way, I would have been like, fuck that. I'm not letting her take this away from me. But I did not figure it out until recently. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I mean, I feel like I'm probably not really worth your time anymore. It's like I'm getting tired, but I hear the party outside. I know I can't go to sleep. Maybe if somebody prompts me with a subject, that would that would help. I'm sick and tired, and it's loud, you know. So it's like if I get off the internet, I'm going to be sitting here with noise, you know. Like, that doesn't sound. There's, you know what I mean? There's nothing I can do to escape, basically. I even thought about just drinking this San Pedro that's sitting right under the camera because, like, I might as well just be, if I'm going to be up all night, I might as well be animated. The only reason I didn't do it earlier is that I thought the second I chug that down, the band is going to just be like, okay, buenas noches, you know, gracias a todos. Ciao. And then I would have just freaked out, so I didn't do it. I mean, you guys, look at all of the political purposes that the assassination of Charlie Kirk served. Really think about it. It's so perfect for the moment that I have trouble believing that he wouldn't have known. You know what I mean? Like, these people are not that dumb. That's largely an act. Hard to believe, because it serves every purpose at once. It gets the liberals fucking, see, guns, get rid of them, which is what they want. Incites the right. Like, I mean, there was just so much. There's so many layers of, like, why it was this perfect political strategy for the NWO. It is so maddening, too, to look out at all these, like, MAGA supporters and people in the other, they all think they know what's going on, and they're all falling for this dupe. And they're all full of self-righteous indignation. Some of them ready to kill the people on the other side, and they're just morons, you know? Like, it's so hard to watch. Like, it really is exhausting. It doesn't even look real at this point to me. Like, the world is just not real. You know, these things are not like, it doesn't require a 150 IQ to understand. I can't imagine that it does. Like, I would think 100 would do it, you know. And I can also tell by the way the establishment is acting that they know that they're not going to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, they know exactly where the limits are. And they're like, part of what they're doing right now is I feel like they're kind of flaunting to those of us that are awake. Like, look, like, we can, like, basically teabag these fucking fools right now, and they'll just, like, you know, think it's dewdrops or whatever. Like, you know, I mean, they're rubbing it right in everyone's faces, and people are still just, like, oblivious. Inconceivable. It's inconceivable. Motherfuckers. Maybe I should just play guitar. I don't know if I can. I have it tuned way down, I think. was thinking maybe I should flip over and do a music stream. Trying to decide if I have the concentration for that. I don't know. Why did I turn the vocal effects on? Turn this off. So I guess I asked you guys for subjects and whatnot, and then I didn't even look at the chat. So I'll do that. I reckon. Yeah, all right. I don't see any. Well, let me look back a little. No, I don't think the secret doctrine is passed genealogically. There ain't nobody in my fucking gene lineage this. I mean, I I don't know how it works. I mean, I do know that I was born basic with the basic framework of it intact already, and I knew where to look too for the other pieces and whatnot. Like that's something that is a endless mystery for me. Like how did I know? Why did I know? Like what the secrets of Freemasonry were? Because I did, and I know I did. Not only because I got the book and it said what I expected it to, but when they recruited me, and I started telling the lodge master fucking what I thought it was all really about, he just stopped me and said, "You know more about this than any of these men in this temple," and I already know that, and I'm like, "What? Excuse me?" You know, so it is like what you're saying about being passed in the genes, I guess, is what I'm acknowledging, that like it's not quite like passed from father to son or something like that, but I can't say that I none of this stuff has been learned for me. It's just confirmed. That was the only point of finding the external manifestations of it, was to help me to accept it, I guess, you know, as like something real, and slowly start to convince myself that I wasn't, you know, delusional or whatever. But it was all just like confirmations. You know, I've been thinking basically the same way since I can remember about what God is and consciousness and the unit. You know what I mean? Like I definitely was born with the same ideas that I have now, as far as I can tell. You know, and according to my family too, like my mom, my grandmother and stuff have mentioned things over the years about how I was just always, you know, like after I started taking acid at 15 or whatever, like it wasn't like it was new. It was just like more of it or something. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. I really don't. They say it's a bloodline thing. Like, I've definitely heard that. And one of the Star Tribe people actually kind of suggested that what happened is that I was part of that like 13 family bloodline, and that like it like got away somehow, and from the money and the royalty or whatever. And there is actually evidence for that I've been able to uncover. My like great uncle is the Duke of Wellington or some shit like that, and something else too. That like I was blue blood, I am blue blood, and somehow the family was like disenfranchised. Like we were Newtons, not descendants of Isaac Newton, but that family. And his obsession with light and alchemy and all of that kind of stuff, if this is true, supports what you're saying about the genetic aspect of it. And it could even tie into that whole Priory of Sion conspiracy, but I really don't want to go that far with it, and I don't care that much. It's kind of neither here nor there. It's just... just is what it is. And it's funny because the secret doctrine, the veiled thing that only initiates can see, it just looks like just obvious common sense to me. Like it's not veiled by anything but social engineering. I've always kind of maintained that whatever level of illumination it is, it should be normal. It's not really that extraordinary. The fact that it seems that way sometimes says more about the state of the world than it does about the individual that demonstrates these capacities from time to time. It's... that's what I think. That's why I was resistant to the genetic thing, I guess, because it could just as easily just be a lack of fucking susceptibility to indoctrination. And of course, there's more to it, like anticipating scientific developments by a decade and consistently, and really, really specific precognitions and that sort of stuff. But I think that it also could just be the freedom from indoctrination that allows that, because there just isn't this dissonance, and as much dissonance in the cognitive apparatus, it's just able to do what it's supposed to do, and that includes sometimes generating precognitions, but they're algorithmic. It's just like one of the reasons I can predict political stuff so accurately is just that it's all an algorithm. They're trauma bots. They're automatons, and the same algorithm that makes a fucking seashell tells me what the United States government is going to do over the next fucking 8 years, That's true, and it's not like you sit around computing or something. The subconscious does that. It's almost like a resonant bleed or something. It's just every now and then this stuff there's relevance definitely plays a role. It's not random, but it's like maybe like a need to know kind of basis to add the right spice at the right time to rise above all the dirt and grime type shit. Things just kind of percolate in there when they need to, It's really, really easy to strategically implant how do you say, like the psychological mechanisms that inhibit that kind of process are easy to inculcate and foment in your victims, you know. It's really what it is. Belief and opinion in matters that are actually objective, you know, the matters of objective facts is a major, 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 major device in all of this. Because like there's an assumption that it can't be resolved. There is no resolution. So the people are expecting to just fight about it endlessly. They're not expecting to resolve it ever. Think about it. Think about all these political arguments. Do these motherfuckers actually seem like they're trying to get anywhere? Or that they expect to? You know, both sides think they're just arguing opinions. And of course it's not true. They're just like not really quite clicking that these things can be just like computed. It's just that they're fucking arguing about, you know. The wedge issues, like I mentioned this the other night, less than 1% of the population is trans. Why the fuck are people in the United States so preoccupied with this stupid ass, it's 1% of the population? I'm not saying it's totally meaningless, you know, and that it shouldn't be dealt with. But I am saying, what the fuck? Like, really, all this heat on this shit? Like, what about, like, World War III? What about the fact that your elections aren't secure? What about the fact that, you know, whatever, like, I mean, you know, like, how are people not getting hip to this shit? That it's all just about distraction and, you know, abortion. Like, of course it matters. But that's why they chose that also as a wedge issue, because both sides are right. At the end of the day, both sides are right. Like, conception is the moment that there's a new DNA strand. That means it's a new person. If something has DNA that is not yours in your body, it's not your body, it's someone else's body. That is fact. There's no arguing about it, you know. Objectively, it's fact. Does it make a fucking difference? In terms of it being a clump of cells that has no attachments to property or people or anything, like, could it possibly fucking matter that much that you need to blow up fucking clinics and shit? Like, you know? So, it really is a solvable thing. It's like, well, okay, yeah, it's a person. So, I mean, they have no ability to vote on whether they get to come the rest of the way into the world or not. So unless you really need to, you probably shouldn't abort it. You shouldn't just do it casually. You are killing a person, but you have the right to, you know, like, I mean, if you're just reasonable about these arguments, then you can fix them. But as long as you're just yelling, my body, my choice, and the other person is going, well, it's not your fucking body and they're right and you're also right, but neither of you are capable of doing anything but repeating fucking propaganda. You know what I mean? Like, you're just gonna end up shooting each other. Like, this is fucking stupid. Just tell the truth. Quit just repeating the phrases they put in your fucking mouth and tell the fucking truth. Yes, it's a human being, but it has no attachments to anything. Shut up. Like, you support war, bitch. Like, what the fuck is going on in these people's heads? You know? But that's where it starts, you know. You gotta tell the truth. People gotta tell the truth. You gotta fucking make your arguments based in truth. And then you might have a chance of getting somewhere. That's why they put the slogan, my body, my choice, into your mouth, is because objectively it's bullshit. That's exactly the point, that you're, like, objectively wrong yelling this shit. Doesn't mean your position is wrong, but you have fallen into a propaganda trap to be a fucking distraction, a walking distraction. You know? If you want to be effective, try speaking fucking truth.
Motherfucker might actually hear you then, you know? Damn. Yeah, all right, guys. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm going to try to play some music, and if I feel like I can do it for myself, I might pipe on and continue my fundraising efforts with a guitar, which is not. Like, I know people are hurting, man, because I used to do these streams and they sounded worse, and I hadn't fixed the lag, and, like, and I would make $100 every time in, like, an hour or something. Definitely worth the effort, you know. And I think the last 6 of them that I've done, I have not gotten a single tip. Not one in like 40 hours or something. So the contrast between like how people were spending money 6 months ago and right now, I mean, maybe it's just my point of view, perspective, whatever, is just coincidence. But if it's what it looks like to me, it's not good. It's not good. It's kind of looking like I know people that were well off a few months ago that downsizing their residence and, you know, from house to apartment type shit, and like Silicon Valley people, you know. And I'm telling you guys, we cannot let them do this shit to us. They're going to crush the proletariat out of existence if we don't do something meaningful, swiftly, and tactfully. There ain't no world worth living in for my son. That's where it's headed. And there ain't shit between that and us but us or nothing. So please hit the like button, share, subscribe, consider becoming a patron, and fucking Cash App and Zelle and stuff. And maybe I'll see you guys in a minute.